Hello, it's Hooded Kobold, and welcome back to part 3 of our GM's Guide to the Adventure module, Ghost of Saltmarsh. In our first adventure, we focused on the overview of the backwater town Saltmarsh. In our second part, we focused on diving into each of those different locations within Saltmarsh. Link to these videos will be in the description down below. In this video, we'll be tackling the forgotten art of downtime activities and exploring the many points of interest around Saltmarsh. There are a lot of downtime activities. I made a list of the ones I have, books that I own, and I came up with 14. I'm sure this isn't even all of them, but the ones I'm going to talk about are the ones that pertain to Saltmarsh. Saltmarsh provides a haven for adventurers between these micro-adventures, and the characters can spend that time engaged in these various activities around town. Characters may pursue them to make additional money, strengthen their ties to Saltmarsh, or just because they think it would be fun. Some of them are straight from the book, but others are my recommendations or creations. First up is buying and selling magic items. Captain Zendros of the Faithful Quartermasters of Ios has items for sale and can also broker the sale of magic items. These items come with a curse, however. Anyone attuned to this item can be targeted by a Detect Thought spell cast by Zendros. This is a very powerful curse as it has no range limit, and all saving throws against it automatically fail. The curse can be detected with an Identify spell, then succeeding it on a DC 25 Arcane check. Zendros asks for 50 gold as a retainer to engage her services as an item broker each week. The process consumes the character's efforts for that week as it involves multiple meetings to haggle over prices and determine desired features, and so on. If the characters pay the retainer, roll twice on the magic item table F and once on each table A, B, C, D, and E in the Dungeon Master's Guide to determine which magic items Zendros has to offer at any given week. Also make note that any unsold items are frequently shipped elsewhere and replaced with new ones. I recommend doing this ahead of time. Maybe roll 10 weeks out worth, and then depending on which week it is, just pull out a log and read what's available. This will save a lot of time at the table. If the characters want a specific item, Zendros can fulfill this request on item table F or G within 1d4 weeks of work. Again, use the same log as the other magic items to have the rolls done ahead of time. Her asking price is based on the item's rarity, as given in this table. But she might be willing to part with the item in return for a favor. She specifically wants two things: an apparatus of Qualish, and to see the Keelan's ambitions for Saltmarsh foiled, though she might try to enlist the characters in a plot to ruin the mining efforts. Zendros is also willing to buy magic items for resale. Since she must make a profit on any item she buys, she only offers half the standard asking price for any item offered by the characters. Completing the transaction takes 1 week's worth of work. Before the deal can be made final, Zendros uses her magic to ensure that the item is authentic and arranges a ship in port to transport the item to the distant land of Ios. Saltmarsh has several taverns that provide plenty of opportunities for adventurers to spend their money on fine food and strong drink. Carousing, being great RP fun, also gives the characters a chance to make bonds and contacts in town. A week of carousing costs 2d10 gold pieces as you lavishly spend gold on food and drink for yourself and others. This actually might be fun to do at the table instead of pre-rolling it, but you know your group better than I, so you make a judgment call. When carousing, pick a single tavern in town to frequent. At the end of the week, you earn a contact in town. You can have a maximum number of contacts in town equal to 1 plus your charisma bonus with a minimum of 1. The nature of that contact depends on the chosen tavern. The book provides the following table to help determine most likely who the contact is. That individual acts as a trusted friend and offers to help as necessary, though they are unwilling to risk their life or possessions. Our third downtime activity provided by the book is doing research. Arrg, the town's half-orc gravekeeper, is always open for recruiting someone to help organize Eleander's library and to take care of things around the graveyard. In return for help of his day job, Arrg grants access to the library and even can help conduct research. His expert command of local history makes him a very useful contact. He has no shortage of semi-interesting tales of notorious fish, monstrous pirates, and other useful information. After spending a week working with Crag, your players will learn one piece of lore regarding the region around Saltmarsh. This lore is equal to one's true statement about a person, place, or thing found within 25 miles of the town. You, the GM, will be the final arbiter on this exact information, but I recommend it being something that can help the players either solve one of their problems or at least make progress on one of their goals. Other NPCs around town can provide similar exchanges. Kelodek the Unspoken holds many secrets because of his pet imp who spies around town. Kelodek is always on the lookout for magic items or rare spell components, and might be willing to make some deals if the players can gain his trust. He has some unsavory characters that help him explore the Tower of Zenopus. That could definitely be a way for the players to gain Kelodek's trust, delving into the ruins and recovering a useful item for Kelodek. Players looking for more information on the region around Saltmarsh should head to Winston's Door or the Sea Grove. Winston's past as a highwayman helped him learn the ways of the land. While living in Hull Marshes, he made a plethora of maps to help guide him through the treacherous swamp. Winston may part ways with them for the right amount of gold. A fun subplot could be added here as well, where the King's men have gotten some leads on old Winston and are now hot on his trail. Duke Merrick Feldrin, who is stationed at Seaton, would be perfect for this operation. Winston may hear about this and ask the players for assistance, either to hide his dark past or to remove the people who are pursuing him. For characters who are interested in making a fair wage with little risk, can find jobs around town. These range from various shopkeepers who need help stocking or manning the store. This might be transporting goods within town, etc. Certain jobs can enable characters to come to the attention of one of the Saltmarsh leaders. These could include any of the following: becoming a deckhand to one of Edda Odolin's fishing boats, joining the guard to report to Eleander Fireborn, mining or other forms of manual labor, with dwarves led by Manistrate Copperlocks, or laboring on the docks, loading and unloading ships for Anders Saltmarsh Trading Company. For each of whatever employment they choose, will earn them enough gold to sustain a modest lifestyle. At the end of each week, they make a DC 15 charisma check. On a success, they earn an opportunity to request an audience with that person. A small note here: the way I recommend running the first adventure, The Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, the players are already going to know Anders, so just keep that in mind. For those willing to do more dangerous or not so legal jobs, can work for Ingo the Drover or Kreb Schenker, the owner of the Empty Net. Ingo the Drover is always on the lookout for skilled mercenaries to fulfill contracts offered to him. He has a particular need for those who can serve as a caravan guard, personal protection for merchants, or sentries aboard docked ships. Kreb is a gatekeeper into Gelen Primewater's smuggling ring. Smuggling has long been an open secret in Saltmarsh, and business is good. With its growth, Gelen and Kreb are always looking out for new prospects, who are willing to make some good coin so long as they keep their heads down and their mouths shut. For each week of mercenary work, players can earn coin needed to sustain a modest lifestyle and an extra 2d10 gold pieces. Additionally, roll a d20 at the end of each week. On a 19 or 20, they earn a bonus 3d20 gold pieces due to the unexpectedly profitable nature of the most recent assignment. The biggest and easiest rival in Ghosts of Saltmarsh is the Scarlet Brotherhood. The Scarlet Brotherhood should be sneaking and conniving throughout the whole campaign. They are kind of the main antagonist holding the storyline together, and should be manipulating Anders and hopefully the party, trying to get them to do their dirty work, and also strengthen their grip on Saltmarsh. The party would also be gaining unwanted attention from either the Loyalist or the Traditionalist, depending on whom they seem to be siding more with. This would definitely put them at odds with council members of the opposite side, who they seem to be neglecting. It's a daunting task to start a large project like building a trade fleet, breaking ground into the tavern business, or starting a new faction. They take time and a hefty amount of resources, though most groups don't open that can of worms. But for those wanting to make this a long campaign, who want to leave a mark on their version of a Ghost of Saltmarsh, they may take this route. Now, I promise I'm not taking a cop-out, but if you want some serious rules, I recommend Matt Colville's Strongholds and Followers. I'm not affiliated with or benefiting by promoting this, I just think they're very solid and comprehensive rules. For those not looking to add a supplement to their game but still want a stronghold, I recommend making a small stronghold in the region around Saltmarsh for the players to discover, then hopefully clear out and claim as their own. And this is a perfect segue into our next part, the region around Saltmarsh. The land near Saltmarsh is safe for travelers, as are the roads that cut through the region. Small farms and manor houses dot the area, many maintained by armed veterans who were granted this land by royal decree. The book says that 1d3 villages or manors should be crossed each day of travel on the road, most of them being the humans, but 25% of the time these are halfling clusters. Such locations consist of several farmhouses clustered around a pub that provides a warm welcome to visitors who come in peace. Once someone journeys off the beaten path, however, a variety of threats emerge from the swampy wilderness. Outside of Saltmarsh are a number of locations that the characters can visit. These are provided by the book, but some of them are not the most fleshed out, so I've taken some liberties to flesh them out a bit here. Just south of Saltmarsh is a small island, Abbey Isle. The small island is a featured location in the adventure Isle of the Abbey. It's called that because there's a small abbey, now abandoned, located on the island. An order of monks built it long ago, but now it's being used by various outlaw gangs and monsters that have claimed it as its lair. I'll be going into more detail on this location in a video for the Isle of the Abbey adventure. Burle is a fortified outpost that is always on guard for monsters emerging from the Dreadwood. It serves as a key stopover point for travelers venturing inland from the southern coastal region. The community is dominated by a small keep that's sat atop the hill that overlooks the forest it borders. A few farmers cluster around it, the locals relying on the royal garrison to keep them safe. This makes the outpost a safe haven for loyalists, but those who are allied with the traditionalists may experience distrust or hostility. Burle's most distinctive feature is the small corpse of trees that grow in the middle of the keep. An ancient treant named Wanderroot dwells in the keep and acts as the informal ambassador between the humans of Keeland and the wood elves of Silverstand. Years ago, the Knights of Keeland helped ward off cultists worshipping the elemental evil fire. Since then, the elves, the treants, and the crown of Keeland have observed the Wild Flame Pact, a treaty that calls for mutual defense against the Dreadwood's horrors. The outpost is commanded by its castellan, Kiara Shadowbreaker, a lawful good female half-elf. She has led many successful raids into the Dreadwood. Kiara is a grim figure, always ready for a threat posed by the Dark Forest. She sees trouble behind every piece of news, and she keeps the warriors and rangers headquartered here ready to fight at a moment's notice. She is especially keen to hear bad news about Scarlet Brotherhood. Kiara is convinced that the organization poses a dire threat to the region, but she has failed to uncover any concrete evidence of their meddling. She suspects that Duke Feldrin of Seaton has been compromised by the Scarlet Brotherhood. He privately seeks to hire spies who could investigate him and search for proof. Burle provides a safe resting place before and during expeditions into Hull Marshes or the Dreadwood. Kiara also offers bounties equal to 5 gold pieces per hit die for any aberration, elemental, or outlaw slain in the region. She has a bounty board just outside Burle's gates, which she occasionally offers larger rewards for capture or killing of specifically dangerous monsters or criminals. Dwarven prospectors have toiled at this new mine for the past 3 years. Soldiers from Keeland's royal army are stationed here as security alongside the Dwarven fighters from the Copperlocks clan. Travelers in need of shelter can rest on the cots in the guard towers that surround the place. But only those with business related to the mine are allowed inside the gates without supervision. The mine is a broad shaft dug into the steep hillside near the shore. Stone walls encompass it, with 2 guard towers overlooking the main gate and 3 other towers spaced evenly around the perimeter. The inner area contains a small village with warehouses, workshops, and houses all erected during the time when the excavation was beginning and enormous amounts of stone became available for building. The laborers also took the time to build the tavern, the Miner's Respite. They spend their off hours drinking, swapping tales, and gambling. Manister Copperlocks is found here. She has set up a small area and uses it as an office when she comes out of the mine. The game of darts has become an obsession among the bored miners and soldiers, and anyone with real skill at the game has a chance to talk their way past the guards at the door and engage in a match. 4 miles east of Saltmarsh, just inland off the Old Coast Road, stands a haunted house. Until 20 years ago, it had been the residence of an aged alchemist of sinister reputation. Even then, the locals avoided the house because of its owner's mysterious activities. Now, 2 decades after an unexplained disappearance of its occupant, the house has taken on an even greater air of evil and mystery. Dilapidated and long abandoned, the house presents an unwholesome appearance. This abandoned house is the center of action in the sinister secret of Saltmarsh. The haunted house can be a useful location for smugglers who operate out of the Saltmarsh area. The Lizardfolk have a rather large lair west of Saltmarsh. This is also the main location for the adventure Danger at Dunwater. The Lizardfolk here view the area around the swamps as their domain. They threaten intruders to ward them off, attacking only those who insist to remain in the area. The Lizardfolk are not only guarding their territory, they are protecting something. It has ordered them to keep its existence secret for the reasons I will go over in a separate video for the Danger at Dunwater adventure. Even further west, we reach a fortress. This rocky outcropping sits atop a submerged fortress occupied by the fearsome Sahuagin. From here, they prey on passing ships and plot to grow in strength to a point where they can expand their territory. This is the main location for the adventure Final Enemy, and I will go more into detail in a video dedicated to that adventure. The traditionalists of Saltmarsh point to Seaton as an example of a fate that they would like to avoid. For years, Seaton was about twice as large as Saltmarsh and enjoyed prosperous fishing and shipping industries. When King Caberto Scotti turned his attention south to deal with the Sea Princes, Seaton was chosen as the location for an important military port. Seaton has since been transformed from a robust fishing town into a dreary fortress. Seaton's harbor is heavily fortified, and a large garrison of naval ships, infantry, and cavalry serves as a primary defense point in the region. Duke Merrick Feldrin, a chaotic neutral male human, rules over the town in his capacity as governor of the southern province that includes Seaton. King Scotti actually granted Merrick's older brother, the war hero Obertus Feldrin, governorship of the province, but the affable duke's reign was short-lived, for he fell ill and died a year later. The title fell to Merrick, a sheltered hothead eager to surpass his brother's legend. He considers the natives of the region cowards who hid away in their isolated villages while the North suffered its losses. He further believes that his brother, who had genuine fondness for the locals, was laid low by traitors in service to the Sea Princes. Duke Feldrin intends to raise taxes to fund an aggressive expansion of the royal army and launch raids across the Sea Princes' domain. The Scarlet Brotherhood, for its part, is delighted by Duke Feldrin's plan to keep the pot stirred. If the opportunity arises, the Brotherhood might plant evidence to plot against him, to feed the Duke's suspicion of the locals and, with luck, spark civil unrest that tempts the Sea Princes into making incursions into the area. I highly recommend having Duke Feldrin visit Saltmarsh every once in a while. He can stir the pot, adding tension to the town, by further oppressing the traditionalists. The wizard Zenopus once dwelled in his tower on the cliffs just outside Saltmarsh. He built his lair next to the remains of an ancient graveyard, rumored to be haunted. One night the tower was engulfed in a fiery green aura. A few brave folks from town investigated the tower and found it to be abandoned. The door at the base of the cellar was covered in strange symbols and wrapped in silver chain. An explorer tried to open the door, but a jolt of lightning from the door's runes nearby almost killed her. Shortly afterward, strange spirits and capering fae were seen atop the tower. After a few travelers went missing nearby, the town council asked the Kiwish galleon to bombard the structure with catapult fire until it was battered into rubble. Since then, the ruins have been largely forgotten. The exception is Keledic the Unspoken, the town wizard who used magic to open the cellar door and found that the passages led to a hidden sea cave. He uses the cave as a meeting point for smugglers. He has recruited several goblins to keep watch over the place, along with a trained giant constrictor snake that he raised from a hatchling. The goblins barricaded several passages leading deeper into the dungeon after losing several of their numbers to ghouls and giant rats that emerged from the depths. Kelodek is uneasy to tell anyone about his secret stronghold, but he can't shake the idea of following the deeper passages for a chance of unearthing Zenopus' lost secrets. If the characters can earn his trust, he might take them into his confidence. The book says that the details of the deep dungeon are left to the DM's invention, so feel free to make this underground lair as large or as small as you need. So, who knew that you could pack so much in such a small area? Well, we have finally and fully explored Saltmarsh and the region around it. In our next video, we'll be delving into the first micro-adventure, the sinister secret of Saltmarsh. If you liked this video, and especially if it helped you, please subscribe and leave a comment. This appeases the YouTube algorithm and lets me know how I'm doing. Until next time, fellow kobolds, bye-bye.